mode. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to part 2 of our webinar on student manager preferences. With so many options available, we had to dedicate 2 full sessions to cover everything. Last month, Chuck covered system, names, and organizational preferences in great detail. And if you weren't with us for that webinar, you can certainly catch that in our webinar archives. Today, he'll finish by reviewing your preferences for courses and faculty, register, and more. So today's session is also being recorded, so you can return for a full review at any time. As I turn things over to Chuck, I'll remind you if you have questions or comments, just place those in the chat box, and I'll get those to Chuck during the session. So Chuck, I'm going to turn things over to you. Oh, he's going to need a second because we've got some technical difficulties with his phone.
I'm back.
He'll be with us in a moment. There he is. Chuck, it's all yours.
All righty, very good. Well, thank you, Sharon, and welcome again, everybody, to part 2. So it's kind of like Jaws 2. So we'll see if we can move with that. Again, recap of session 1. I believe most of you guys were good students coming back for session 2. We will go through that real quickly, but this is the focus today: course register, pocket ledger, firm. So without further ado, let's get into that. And again, as we go, remember, type your questions in the box. Quick review: how do you get to preferences from the launch bar, from the main menu? Reminder of the types of things that they do, enabling and disabling fields where you can hide or use fields as needed, control field behavior, and then some system behavior. Again, reviewing how you, as the keeper of the flame or the system administrator, controls which staff get to edit preferences. It's an edit preferences box on your user setup screen. Color coding, we've got, again, the black is user specific, global, blue affects everybody, and purple is a special kind of a limited use. And again, we give you a little cheat sheet on that. So, and again, this is what we covered last time: system, names, and org defaults. So we're going to recap what we did before. Primarily, there's some preferences in here for performance we talked about. Lots of stuff, of course, in the name, and again, base information about your organization. So, and then, of course, we did hit real quickly user-defined fields last month. So, to the rest of the story. So this is what we're going to be doing this session today. And we'll start it off with course. There's a couple of these. And again, I'm not going to cover every single one of these. So if you are either have had a question yourself about one of these, again, the help guide is going to have the detail, but certainly feel free to ask during the session here. Type it in the box. Sharon will let me know, and we'll try to cover it during the session today. A couple of things on performances on the course setup screen. One big one is the display due and paid totals. And again, if we're talking about this for in terms of student manager, that is that when you bring up a course, the due and paid totals that show down on the bottom of the screen. If you have a slow system, that can take a few seconds for that to pop up. So again, if you're going into a course inside Student Manager, and let me get, how did I get so many open things? And this is taking a while, and you'll see it says calculating due and paid. If you would go in and turn that preference off, what you get then is that it'll pretty much instantly pop up the screen. You don't have the due and paid. And you know, well, I really want to see the due and paid. If you go to student list, it will give you the due and the paid in your printout, if you would, of the column. So you can get to it. It just takes one click to move into the screen. So due and paid, recalculate enrollment on the course load. And again, there were a couple people who were having issues. They said the enrollment count wasn't being updated. You can turn that on if you want. For most of you, I would leave that turned off. You shouldn't need to worry about that. So, the other one that's interesting is this course time pattern, and this is something. Again, if you're living with it, you're probably happy with the way you've got it set up. But the default course time pattern is the initials of the week from time to time. Well, you said, well, I want it to show a little bit differently. What you can do is put in and again, we have some examples of this that you can. Oh, I keep going the wrong. Hang on a second. I have some examples of this. If we go to Mastering Student Manager. So this is the normal, Wednesday and Tuesday. But if you flip it, like if you wanted to say 6 Tuesday, 7 to 10 p.m., and again, that I changed that setting and then turned it back. But that's an example of how you might have a different layout of how you want the days of the week, the days to display, abbreviated or not abbreviated. That is again something that you can help work with us, and we'll help you modify that. Membership information is if you have a membership program, OLLI program, that's where you can set that. A lot of information up here about when you're cloning courses, behavior of cloning, and course editing. One of the things is the business about warning on time location change. That's something you can turn off if you don't like to have the pop-up message every time you edit the course time. And again, there's some issues about how you do the cloning. Clone registration warning, whether you want to do that or not. Reminders, this is your being able to turn on and off your remind students of upcoming classes, and the new feature down here, which is to send a follow-up note, whether you're doing it as a thank you or whether you're doing it with a link to an evaluation form. You can do that. Now, I want to highlight in 7.2, we still have this reg note, show the reg note after show pay on student list. That will be deprecated because the new student list from the course screen, if you remember, you can edit, you can move the columns around and save the format of that. And again, just real quickly to remind you, so if you wanted to change the sort order of these particular columns, I want to move, say, email. I want to move the email clear over, click on it here, abandon. Drag that email. I want to drag that email right over next to the name. If you do save and close, the next time you go out to that list, it will save that column exactly where you want it to be. That was a really nice feature that Matthew put up. All right, questions. If there are any questions, anybody got any particular items on the course screen that they were wanting to maybe to cover?
Again, I'm not seeing anything right now, Chuck, but they can certainly get those in there, and I will send them your way.
Sounds good. Register. All right. This is, of course, with the registration screen. One of the things that people a lot of times ask about, well, what exactly is the registrar mode? Well, the theory behind the registrar mode is that you can turn off a bunch of these fields when a new registration is being created, so that the staff member doesn't have to wade through empty fields that really aren't relevant right at the opening of a registration. So basically, in order to do that, you have to go to password maintenance, and then there's a checkbox that says set to registrar only mode. And the assumption there is that if you've got some staff whose main job is just doing daily registration for new registrations, you can turn that on, and then that will be how do you say, simplify the registration screen. So for example, Here is the registrar mode. And if you kind of look in the middle, you see none of those fields in the middle are on. I'm going to click a button. There's your register mode, and it's a regular mode, and it has tracking code, status, t-shirt, paid by. And again, in my little example here, we really should have tracking code included in the register mode. And that's something that, of course, you can do down in here, is that, you know, if you use register mode, you can choose to turn fields on for those, if you would, a new registration setup. Some of the other things in here that I think are perhaps might be useful. Validate registration adjustment fee description. And again, what this is that when you're on a registration, and if you are doing a lot of things with the fee adjustment description, right now I have it in my system turned, the validation is turned off. So in other words, I can type in whatever I want here. I want, you still have to put in the dollar amount, $5. But the point is, if you end up needing to do a lot of fee adjustments, adding fees or making adjustments, and B, you don't care about the description or that the wording of that is exactly the same for analytical purposes, you can turn this feature off. In other words, you can uncheck the validate part. Again, that depends on how you use the system, but it's an option for you. Warn when registering old course. Now, this is one, if you have registered a student in a class that the class begin date has already started, it will say, you are registering in an old course, and you say, shut up, just do it anyway. Case in point, if you are doing registration, say, for a contract course, and you're adding names to a course because you just got the list 3 days after the course started, and you got 30 names to enter, certainly jump into the preferences, turn off that warning so that you won't have to click through the in-your-face message every time. Quick cancel registration, and I don't know, that's one that I don't think many people use, but the point of that is when you have a registration, and particularly like an AW pending registration, where they started to register and then bailed and didn't end up paying for it, and you say, well, look, I want to just get rid of that registration because, and what it will do then, it'll automatically zero out the hours, it'll automatically eliminate room use records, and it'll automatically put in a negative adjustment of the fee. Basically, it kind of zeroes out that registration in one step without the normal kind of a double warnings. If you're doing a refund, click the refund wizard to do the refund. You get several prompt messages on a normal registration cancel. And again, that only happens if there is a registration with no payment and no other special features on it. So it is a handy thing to look at. Prompt for grouping. And again, if you are doing grouped registrations, of course, you're going to need to have that turned on. That's something that otherwise it won't ask you, do you want to group this registration with another on the registration grouping? Find sort by last name from course. Now, that's kind of an odd statement, but what it is that when you are in a class, let's see if we can get there. I'm in the class, and you go to you go, and the big deal about this was that, remember, folks, where you could go to student list before, you could double click on the student and actually edit the registration. That has been deprecated because of potential security, or not security, but mis-editing issues. Now when you go to add edit regis with the alpha mode, normally when you hit the find button, the list that you get of names is done in the add date order. if you turn on this feature, click it to say find sort by last name, turn that on, what you get is an alphabetical list of these people when you go to edit registration and hit find. So again, the goal there is to kind of help you approximate that nice alphabetical registration list if what you want to do is go in and actually edit the registration for that particular record. I'm going to pause a second, make sure people are digesting that. Sharon, everybody okay with that? No,
okay with that. Everybody's with you, Chuck.
All right. Last one I want to hit is a disallow registration fee delete with staff with lower registration levels. And what that is that, again, when you're in a registration, if you had an optional fee, you'll see there it says to remove an entry, double click it. Well, if you said, well, wait a minute, if I'm not going to allow my person to delete a registration, I don't want my person to delete an optional fee that might be added. So when you turn on that switch, basically what you've got is, you see the minimum delete level that you can set at the security screen. If the student does not have the level 5 in the register area, if they don't have the register 5 delete level in their access for register, they're not going to be able to delete those registration optional fees. So again, gives you some more control over that system. Again, lots of features in here that control behavior of the system. Be sure to check out that help guide. So again, this is the help guide, and you'll see the main screen, and then underneath you'll have all of the detail of pretty much every single element in that screen. If it's not completely clear, you get a little bit of a description of what it is that's going to offer for you. Pocket Ledger, moving on to Pocket Ledger. So Pocket Ledger, not a whole lot of behavior things. It's mainly enabling and disabling data screens. Firm, again, ditto with the firm side, mainly turning fields on and off. A couple of things, you have two logical fields that you can define when you're setting up a firm, and you have two character fields you can define. And one of the new things in the firm side is that on the character fields, you now can validate. You have the option to turn on validation for one of the character fields on the firm screen. Faculty, again, lots of main parts of it are turning fields on and off, being able to relabel how you have the system, enabling the callback feature. Again, if you've got, if you're a staff member who deals a lot with faculty members, and you're trying to reach Professor Smith and is on sabbatical for a month yet, you say, well, I got to remember to call him the minute he gets back. Make sure obviously you want to turn on a callback. You've got to check the box that says enable the callback system in order for you to use that callback system that manager supports for faculty. Instructor assignment on a course. Again, ability to edit those labels for evaluation fields, how you want to determine what the pay date reference is going to be on that record. Do you want to clone instructors? Do you want to clone the instructor's pay date? Again, some of the elements that relate to setting up a course. Sharon, I'm still not seeing a lot. Anything? Question-wise.
Everybody seems to be fine. Question-wise.
All righty. And wrapping it up here, pay. And again, a lot of moving parts here on the pay. Check the help guide on that. A couple of things that I want to kind of highlight here that I'm not sure people do much with, but one is pay escrow. or firm escrow. And I'm going to ask here. We'll wake you up here, but we're going to get done early here today, so you should be paying attention. Raise your hand if you use firm escrow. All right, and we won't ask you. You say, well, what the heck is it? Okay, I don't see anybody raising their hand. So, all right, well, what firm escrow allows you to do is when you have that turned on, is that, and I want to make sure, let me check my setting because I need to make sure. Use firm escrow. Okay. So that if you have if you have any student who is a member of a firm, ACEware Systems, if you have any student who is a member of the firm that has a credit balance, basically what you're going to be able to do when you go look up a registration for that firm, I didn't set one up specifically, but let's just see. If I'm going to add a registration for Jason Allen, and of course, go to payments. There it is. You will now get a button on the payment screen called Firm Escrow. And what that will do, it'll go back to any name in the database that is connected to this firm. Look for any escrow credits that student has, who is part of ACEware Systems, and say to you, the company it basically allows you to take escrow units and make them firm, general to the entire firm that a person is connected to. So that you could say, well, we're going, even though those might be Chuck Havlicek's credits from ACEware Systems or Sharon Brookshire's credits from ACEware Systems, we're going to consider for our purposes here, any money that's a credit belonging to a student from a firm is available to go to any other student from that firm on a new class. That is what the firm escrow feature does. And again, it seemed to me that that's something that people might be finding kind of useful. One-time coupon setup. Again, if you've been using coupon codes or thinking about using coupon codes, normally when you set up a coupon code, you would set it up on the course. We'll just pull up a course here. You go in and you'd set up a coupon code on the course, and that coupon code can be used by any student any number of times for different courses. But if you really say, I only want a particular coupon to be used one time for a term, and you can specify it by your course number begins, or in other words, a term at a time, or I suppose you could even do it as a year at a time, depending on how your course codes are set up. But that is, again, for obviously AceWeb and also for Student Manager. And then finally, this billing date. Again, for those of you that are doing invoicing, what the custom date option allows you to do is, if you said, well, we want all invoices due the 15th of the next month after the invoice has been created. And so basically this little complicated looking thing, which Matthew can send you, it's actually some examples in the help guide, you could paste that in the custom date formula there, and anytime you do a billing, the invoice due date would be the 15th of the next month after you made the billing. So again, that's one of the examples of the custom date. I'm trying to think. I don't really think there's anything else up there that we're going to worry about for now. Okay, so WWCD, what would Chuck do? Well, I tell you what, here are some things that Chuck would probably not do here. we're going to see here. Maybe we'll get that here. I was trying to be cute for... There we go. So there we go. We get that. We'll get the element on that. There's a cavalry coming in on that. What I would do, though, is hit the help guide, because, again, your help guide is the one that really is going to give you the information about the different kinds of... we'll get to the website on this here. I'm going to get to the website. Eventually, I'll get to the website. So again, if you just search for preferences, name preferences, course preferences, registration preferences. So again, each one of these will have the the screen that'll show all the preferences that we've got. And then down below underneath it would be the detail about the links and the elements thereof. So, well, folks, you have been pretty quiet here. Questions? What do you have? Are there some of these that you want to go back and review? Any preferences that you would like to see added that maybe you've got a wish list for? You know, again, we are beginning to look at adding features from the Right. I think, well, I didn't put it in this slide deck, but last time I said go in and look at your own preferences. The big deal is review those, take a look at those, and again, if you don't find the answer on how exactly you'd use that with the help guide, you know, shoot a note to Sharon or I or your tech, and they'll be able to get that answer for you. So, all right, well, reminders again, annual conference registration is going in. I heard a couple people register, call in and register today. Next month, software update on the 6th, and then a webinar in the end of March, Better Management of Instructors with Manager and ACEware. And that's going to be a joint presentation between myself and, is it Jason, or is Jason covering that? Who's doing the ACEware part? Jason's going to do that. So you're going to get to hear from somebody who knows something about ACEware on that. So, all right, folks. Well, listen, you know where we live. We appreciate you, and I am quick bouncing around here. We appreciate you setting in. You have a great afternoon. Spring is getting closer and closer. Hope you're having a good have a good week, and we will see you in March. Have a good one, everybody.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Bye.